Hello and welcome to the newest episode of All Hands on Deck podcast. Today I'm joined by a friend and a colleague, Mr. Jonathan Tilt. Some of you may be aware of Jonathan and heard his name in the past. He's been working very hard throughout the movement for quite some time now. And Jonathan and I are embarking on a very interesting new project that we're both very excited about, very energized about, and we genuinely believe are going to bring some answers and solutions to some of the issues that we face. And this one's focusing very much more on the political angle. As I've said before, I think this is a kind of multi-pronged attack on how we move forward. And the political side of it is one that's personally very interesting to me, and I know Jonathan as well. We wanted to share with you our new initiative, but I'm first off going to welcome Jonathan and ask him to very kindly explain what the Vote Freedom Project is about, why we've brought it forward, and what we want to achieve. So hello, my friend, how are you?
Hi, Kath. Thanks for having me on this exciting new podcast. I'm fine, thank you very much. Right, brief intro. I mean, as you know, and as maybe the people listening know, I was involved from the start in trying to use elections to resist the tyranny, right from the sort of summer of 2020. Not because I think elections are a particularly great thing or a wonderful thing, but it's just one of the few avenues available to us. There's not a lot we can do. We can protest, we can set up the alternative structures like PHA. But using elections as a platform for freedom and as a route into trying to interrupt and disrupt things from the inside is a valuable tool, and it's one that I think we should try to use as much as possible. I initially did this through the Freedom Alliance political party, which I set up and ran for 2 years. We had 260 candidates or something like that in the end. But what became several things became apparent to me running Freedom Alliance. One, political parties are highly centralised and as a result become open to capture and infiltration. And the other thing that the campaigning up and down the country across England and Wales, particularly, that became obvious was that there is real hostility to political parties. There's not hostility to politics and discussing issues, and there's certainly not hostility to voting. You can see that from Strictly Come Dancing and things like that, where people are quite happy to engage in voting. But there's people detest political parties, particularly people in the freedom movement. But it's wider than that. It is just this general sort of perception that they are utterly corrupt and useless and incompetent. Which is true, I'm afraid. So trying to tackle this through a formal political party, whilst I thought that was the way to do it to start with, it became obvious, particularly after the Wakefield by-election last summer, that wasn't going to work. It wasn't the route. We've got to try and find a different mechanism for doing this. And the statistic that persistently stuck in my head is there's 19,000 councillors across Great Britain, and 2,500 of them are independents. They've been elected as independents. There's virtually none from the small parties, from Freedom Alliance, Reclaim, Reform, Heritage. They don't have any yet. They do well to not come last in an election. In Freedom Alliance, that's how we looked at it. That was an achievement if we didn't come last. And that was a valuable tool for platforming freedom and getting the leaflets out. But we got past that now. We have got to get people onto these councils. I mean, we could talk about the general election later, but a lot of this tyranny, I mean, we've seen it in Oxford, is being implemented through the councils. It's nothing to do with central government. And we've got to get councillors in there to start asking the awkward questions, getting hold of the information, and start putting forward motions to actually disrupt some of this nonsense. So we've got to get elected. And to me, the route to getting elected is as independent councillors, but not just any independent, in a supported framework for pro-freedom people, which is what we're trying to do with the Vote Freedom Project. There's 8 fairly simple principles on the website, which I'm sure most people listening to this would have absolutely no problem signing up to. If you agree with those, then we'll support you. We'll provide the resources. We'll do all the good bits of being in a political party. Have someone holding your hand, helping you with the forms. You can have a page on the website if you want a page on the website. So all of that is still there, all the good support that you get from being in the party. But you'll get elected as an independent. You won't, and should you be elected, you won't be subject to any party whip or having to do what some big egotistical central leader tells you've got to do. You just stick to those principles and get on with representing your constituents or ward electors. And so that's the idea. We want to facilitate this in a very sort of decentralized way. And again, that fits entirely with what you're doing with PHA, Kath, that just push it out to everybody, give you the facilities, give you the resources, but you're doing it. We need you to do it, because that's the only way we're going to get numbers to do this. There's 19,000 councillors and there's 600 MPs. A handful of us sat at the centre can't organise that. It's just physically impossible. I can tell you from experience. But we can show you how to all go and organise it yourself in your own towns and cities. And that's really the fundamental idea behind Vote Freedom, which you can find more information at vote/freedom.org is the website you need to go to. It's all work in progress, and we're open to suggestions, and we're open to people coming on board and helping us run the thing. But yeah, I think you hopefully like what you see there.
Yeah. And it's not just candidates we're looking for. I mean, every candidate who stands for a local election ideally will have a small team behind them, a small team of local people to help with leafleting, help with organising things. There's an opportunity for everyone to get involved, even if you're not necessarily quite confident enough to stand. You certainly can get involved and support your local independent candidate in doing so. So as those candidates come forward, if there's somebody in your local area who stepped up and you feel like you want to give them a hand, get in contact, go and offer your help, offer to do leafleting for them, or helping with some practical actions that need to take place. And I think it's very important that people understand, if you do feel intimidated, or you do feel it's too big, or you don't fully understand, I would place money on the fact that most of the councillors out there are actually quite useless overall, and they don't have the drive to build the new, they don't have the drive to create something better, or they would have done it. So whoever you are, if you're feeling there's a bit of a lack of confidence there, or you're thinking, well, I don't really know much about what goes on, you'll learn, and you'll learn quite quickly. But most importantly, you'll probably go in with the right attitude. And that's something that really needs to be different this time round. You're actually proactive in wanting to bring change and wanting to make things better. And hopefully, you're going to have a team of people by your side to support you with that. And certainly from what we can do at Vote Freedom Project is help with a lot of the really practical stuff that you need to do. So don't feel overwhelmed by it. Just understand that what you could be doing is actually going to make a huge difference on the communities in your area and change people's lives for the better, genuinely change people's lives for the better. That isn't fluff. We could bring it, again, start asking the difficult questions, start making people uncomfortable. I mean, the ideal, isn't it, is all those council leaders, we replace them because they're not doing their job. And sometimes you have to do that from the inside. It's not so easy to do it from the outside. So whilst we're building anew with PHA and PFFA, we need to make changes of the system there is now. And this is just one way of doing it, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, on that point you made at the start, I mean, yeah, if the competition isn't particularly impressive, find your local councillor, have a look at what they're putting on social media, if anything. Go along to council meetings, email them and see what they come back with. Because there are obviously exceptions to the general rule, but on the whole, they're not that impressive. They get elected because of the party name they're associated with. It's great to have people come leafleting, and we do need those people behind every candidate. But there is a theme here that we need people to step up a level beyond what they're often comfortable with. I mean, I was a leader of a political party and I'm now coordinating this project. That isn't something I'm naturally comfortable with. I would have been a candidate quite happily, and saw that as when this came along, somebody else had set up a party and I'd just be one of the candidates. But I've had to go over and above what I'm comfortable with. So we are asking those people that would be comfortable with leafleting to go over and above and consider being a candidate, because particularly at council level, I mean, even parliamentary by-elections, I've stood for Parliament in Batley, and you don't get a lot of attention. I mean, the media deliberately ignore our side. I've stood for the council twice in my local village where I live. I live on a cul-de-sac with 6 people on it. I bet 3 of them don't even know I've stood for the council. You don't get a big profile. You get a little bit, little mention in the local press, and your name's on the ballot paper. I've had people come up to me and say, I'd love to do it, but I can't give speeches to 100 people and stuff like that. And you're not going to be giving speeches to 100 people. You're not going to be giving speeches to anybody. It's just. So we are trying to encourage people to just go one step further than what they're comfortable with, and you soon become comfortable with it. If you do that, it soon becomes second nature.
Yeah, I mean, I think this whole time is an opportunity for a lot of people to step outside their comfort zone. I mean, for example, I'm just going to use myself just because I understand obviously what's taken place here. But if somebody had said to me 4 or 5 years ago, in a few years' time, you'd have set up a couple of initiatives that end up going worldwide, and you'll be standing as a councillor in your local elections, and you'll be doing your podcast and so on and so forth. I'd have been very nervous, very, very frightened, and I would have said, no, don't be ridiculous. And lo and behold, look at where I'm at. And one of the biggest things that someone said to me is just feel the fear and do it anyway. This is a time for action. This is the time to step outside your comfort zone. This is the times of waiting for somebody else to pick up the mantle and run with it are so gone. Now is the time for us to be responsible for doing that ourselves. And I would love to see nothing more than all of those councillors replaced over the time by freedom-loving people and 650 MPs in the Houses of Parliament eventually who are freedom lovers and support, you know, the movement and ultimately support we the people. So now it's more imperative than ever before for people to come outside of their comfort zone, put one foot in front of the other, and know you're supported. We're not asking you to do it on your own. We're not asking you to just go out there and wing it. You know, this is where the Vote Freedom Project comes into play. We can support you through this process, and that's the key part. You're not alone, but you do have to strap on a set, be blunt about it, and you do have to put your head above the parapet a little bit, not massively at local council level at all. Like you were saying, Jonathan, it doesn't need to be like that, but this is the time now for action. And just based on the response I've had so far when I've told people about Vote Freedom Project, and I'm including 2 MPs in that conversation, when I've told them about it, they've gone, that's the way forward. That is absolutely the way forward. Party politics is done. Like you said, there's too many opportunities for influence, be it the party, be it the donors, be it the whip. If you're standing as an independent councillor or MP, the only people you are answerable to are your constituents, are your people in your ward or wherever it may be. That's it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And just to sort of cover what we were discussing before we started, you know, and we both experienced this and we've got examples of it. People aren't looking for polished professional people anymore. They're looking for ordinary. You know, I've sort of, with Freedom Alliance, I've done town hall meetings up and down the country, and to you know, audiences usually of about 50, 60 people, and they quite like it when you make a mistake, when you get your words wrong, when you don't know the answer to a question. People like that because it's the opposite of, you know, not that I do that all the time. I do try to have an answer to most things, but they're not the spin and the polished professional politicians. That's all going with the parties. It's a different new world, which is, you know, more real and more honest.
That's it, real. I think real is the absolute right word, because when you look at a lot of the politicians we've got at the moment anyway, even in the Labour Party, you know, that for the working people, you're talking about people who come from private school, you're talking about people who've come from these backgrounds whereby their ability to relate to your kind of average man on the street is virtually zero. Actually, I want to see people standing who can understand and empathise with my position as a regular person on the street. And the days, like you say, of those that have come from a maybe more elitist background, or one that is further removed from the, you know, the regular guy's position, those days are gone. People see through it now. They see through it. So don't, you know, just because you might live in a 2 up, 2 down in the middle of some town that isn't, you know, financially prolific or whatever, it doesn't matter. In fact, more so to you, because we need people who understand and who listen and who are prepared to take action and who are sick and tired of elitist politics in this country. And I honestly believe independents are the way forward. I know that I will stand for whatever position I'm needed to stand for, and I will drive it forward. Now, do I have the time and energy and desire to want to be an MP? Yes and no. Yes and no. But do I think I could do the job, and do I think it's my duty to my fellow man to go above and beyond to ensure that I can help be there to help make decisions on how to make this country a better place for people to live in? Yeah, heck, I do. Absolutely, I do. But also I think as well, I don't like to bring it up because people see it as negative, but actually now is a time for a little bit of self-sacrifice, if we're honest. You know, if ever there was a time in our lives, in our history, when we all had to maybe step outside our comfort zone, so put something aside that we want to do what we need to do for, I hate to use the expression, but for the greater good, then surely now is the time, rather than any other time before. Now is the time to do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, we are living through history, through the historic times. There's no question about that. You know, the COVID, the vaccine mandates and things may have disappeared off the horizon. I'm sure they will be coming back, but they may have gone into the background for a while. But this has not gone away. It may feel like life has gone back to 90% of normal, but that's just an illusion. We are going to have to fight and win this war. And this is one avenue for doing it, politics. And it's not the only avenue, and it's probably not the best avenue. I mean, I always think of it. We've got a mountain to climb here. There's 4 or 5 paths up the mountain, and we're stood at the bottom. We don't actually know which path is going to get to the top, so we set some people going up off on each path, don't we? And one of those 4 or 5 paths is the election system and politics, and others are the alternative lifestyles and stuff you do with PHA. Others are the protests, but we don't know which one's going to win, but one of them will win. I'm absolutely convinced of that. So we split our resources and send some people off up each path, basically.
It's
and
all additional pressure, isn't it, on the central system as well?
Yeah.
All of these coming at the same time, that's quite a powerful move.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You're building the new, which we don't really need them for.
Yeah.
And we're coming at you from the political angle, sunshine, and we're going through the legal and
the legal challenges,
protests and so forth. So it is a multi-pronged attack. But the elections, whilst a lot of people, again, you're going to come across people say poo-poo, or they're all controlled and everything else. Well, if you don't ask, you don't get, for a start. Secondly, we aren't stupid. We're aware that those things might be going on. And so there are talks now happening on how we can help mitigate any corruption or interference. And thirdly, we live in a democracy, and I think we have to uphold the most democratic of processes that we have. And as such, let's make it work in our favor. Let's not, just see it as a negative thing and ignore it. Let's use it as a tool to help us win this war. Because in my mind, and I don't know how you feel about this, for me, accountability has to come. I don't think we'll find peace in this country until accountability has been had at. Now, we know the judiciary and legal system aren't playing ball. We know that. We've exhausted those to the hilt. So the other way we can start bringing accountability is from the inside, but we've got to get in there.
Yes,
so let's get in there.
Yeah.
Let's get.
I mean, it's just one small example to go back to council elections. If once you've got a typical council, certainly in the metropolitan area, we'll have 60 or so councillors. Once you've got 2 councillors there working together, you can start to bring motions. One person, because a motion needs a proposer and a seconder. So we could get onto Kirklees Council, the 2 or 3 of us that stand here. We could pass a motion, we could bring a motion saying that there will be no COVID marshals, or there will be no silly lines on the pavement, or something like that. And it may not get voted through, but there'll have to be a debate on it, and we get the opportunity to present our arguments, and it'll get reported on by the local press. The other councillors will listen to it, because I've had contact with Conservative and Labour councillors who agree with us. They're terrified to agree with us, and they won't vote this way at the moment, but they fundamentally know what's going on, and they so if you get in front of them in the council chamber and lay the arguments down, you've got an opportunity to start to swing it that way as well. And you don't need to take control of the whole council. You need 2 people to be able to do that.
And also the whole process, actually, of you going through, once you're in place in a council, obviously you're going to be able to have a more dramatic impact, I suppose. But actually, even through going out and handing out leaflets, going and knocking on doors, going and having chats with the local community, it's actually an opportunity to very gently be waking people up to some realities that they might not be aware of, and you can do it in a very tactful way. There's ways with which to do that, like certainly the CBDCs and the 15-minute cities and stuff. There's nothing there you can't find on the government website. So it's actually an opportunity as well to engage people in a way on a political level that they may not have been engaged with before, and capture their interest. What do you think on that one?
Yes, I mean that's largely where I've been for the last 2 years with Freedom Alliance. I mean, we always took the line. It doesn't matter. It's not about the votes. It doesn't matter about getting elections. It's about getting the leaflets out. You legally get some media coverage once you're standing for election. They have to have a sort of what they call an equal weighting or something. You don't get the same as Labour and Tory, but you do get some coverage. So we, myself and those others that were running Freedom Alliance, always took the view it doesn't matter how many votes we get. We're getting a platform. We're getting some information out there that people don't otherwise see. We've had you get on the BBC website for stuff. And you get with parliamentary by-elections, you get a leaflet delivered for free to every house in the constituency. And we always took the view that's important. It's worth doing it for that, and that's for 2 years what we did. I actually don't think that now. I think we've got to get people elected because this tyranny is being implemented through councils. We've seen that in Oxford and Canterbury and everywhere else. It's coming through councils, and we've got to get it on the inside and disrupt it from the inside. And that's largely why I've moved away from the political party model, because I don't think we're going to get elected as political parties. I think we've got a chance as independents, because independents do get elected. It's hard. It's going to be difficult. I'm not saying we're just going to walk into the council just because you put your nomination papers in. But we've got a chance as independent, and we have got to get into those councils now. It's not just about having a platform at elections.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We absolutely have to be in there, and we need you, the people, to come and represent your people. You do have a responsibility. We all have a responsibility to do what we can. And for those of you that, something in there might flick a switch and say, well, actually, if I push myself, I could actually do something here. You need to do it. You don't need to just think about it. You need to actually take action and do it. And the first thing you need to do is go to the website, vote-freedom.org. Go and have a look on there, go and see what it's all about, and get in contact, drop an email, get in contact, because the sooner we get on with this, the sooner we win this. And we need literally people standing for every single election across the UK over the next 12-24 months. Every single one. We need to see freedom candidates standing up and doing that. It's absolutely essential. I'm going to do it. And I'm one of the busiest people I know. I'm not just saying that. I am genuinely one of the busiest people I know, and I'm going to do it. If I can find the time, space, and energy to do it, I'm pretty sure there's plenty of others out there who can. No excuses now.
Yeah, I mean, I get that it's intimidating, it's nervous, it's a bit scary, it's standing up in your local area. You don't actually have to do it where you live. You can do it anywhere else in the same council area. There are, I don't particularly approve of them. There are ways of disguising your identity if you don't want your actual name on the ballot paper. So there are mechanisms that we're quite used to now. We've been using for a couple of years in the elections framework. So I expect people to be a little bit wary and a little bit intimidated by it. And I've always been slightly cautious about those that come on and are immediately enthusiastic and want to sign the form straight away, because it should be a little bit scary, and it is a little bit scary. But we'll help you through that. I've supported, as I say, about 250 candidates now. I know the system, I know what we're doing, and I know how to do it. So just come chat to us and come talk to us. We're going to be having some Zooms for potential candidates. There's plenty of information on the website. You email in, and we'll let you have some more. But we need you to do this. This cannot be. You shouldn't be sat there waiting for some big bleeder on a white horse to come riding over the horizon and save us. Because one, we don't want that. That's wrong. That's not the new system.
Agreed.
But two, it ain't going to happen. So just forget about it and get on with saving yourselves.
Yeah, it's going to take all of us. That's what people need to realise. It's going to take all of us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. It's not difficult. Council elections aren't difficult. They're not. As we said, they're not high profile. The other thing that's good about council elections is it's essentially the same system as for a general election. So once you've got used to the forms, you've got used to the process, you've got used to dealing with the election services people in your local council, it's exactly the same thing for a parliamentary. So if nothing else, standing in the council elections this year is good practice for people standing in a general election next year. And you'll do better in the general election by having had that practice. There's a window of opportunity, and then there's quite a scary period, because there's quite a lot of elections. There's council elections this year. There's obviously likely to be there will be a general election in 24, if not earlier. The Scottish and Welsh Parliament and Mayor of London elections in 24. And then there's this big, enormous hole when there's not going to be anything much in the way of elections between 2025 and 2028. And that's quite terrifying, because that's an opportunity for them to make a move. Because right back at the start of the COVID tyranny, the coronavirus act, the very first thing they did before we had lockdowns, before any of that came in, the first thing they did was suspend the elections that year. They wanted those elections out of the way because they didn't want any public scrutiny of what they were doing. It was the very first thing they did back in the middle of March 2020. And they're not even going to have to do that 27, 28, because there's hardly anything planned anyway. So that's we need to use these elections now. Don't be sat there thinking, oh, it's a good idea, I'll do it in 3 years' time when the kids have left school.
Now
it's now. I've got a young family. It's scary. My daughter hates me standing in the local council elections. It's not it's not good. I'm not pretending it's nice. But that's what they use. That's what they use to terrify us. The fact that we're uncomfortable, we're out of comfort zones, and they play on that. So don't fall into the trap.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's something I've hung on to actually throughout all of this and before. was every time something made me feel fearful, I'd think they want me to feel fearful. So it's almost that stubbornness about me. I was just like, well, then no, I'm not going to let it stop me. And I haven't. And as a result, I've been able to bring some results for the people, and there's be more that I can bring. But again, feel the fear and do it anyway, because now is the time. This is big, this is serious. Like Jonathan, you're saying, we're not going to get another opportunity. Let's face it, if 24 goes down the pan for us, who knows if we'll ever be other elections.
I very strongly suspect. No, I think they'll introduce a prescription of political parties after 24, so you'll have to be on an approved list. There won't be any independents, and you'll only get on the approved list if you're a party that basically adheres to the narrative. I can see the mechanisms in Wales are already in place for that. The legislation is already there, and I'm absolutely convinced that's what will come after 24. There'll still be elections, as every tyrannical dictatorship. North Korea, I think, even has elections still. So they always have elections, but it's only approved candidates. And I'm pretty convinced that's what's going to be coming after 2024. These elections at the minute may not be perfect. I personally don't think there's open corruption in terms of the counting of the ballot papers. I think there's a lot of corruption around the media coverage and all of that. But with rare exceptions, I think the elections are actually fair and they're counted properly and all of that, and ballot boxes don't go missing. But I'm not. That's not. I don't think that's going to continue for much longer. So let's use it while we've got it. Yeah. It is. I mean,
oh, sorry.
So, no, I mean, it's just scary. I personally, I've probably had 3 periods where I've had quite a serious wobble, and I can't do this. Why am I putting myself out here? Why isn't somebody else doing it? And you just sort of take a breath, but take a few days off, and you come through the other side of it. And I can pinpoint 3 points over the last 2 years when I've been in that place. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just too exposed. It's why the hell's it me? I'm just an acupuncturist from Barnsley, sort of thing. Why can't somebody else do it? But that's what they want. They want you in that place, don't they? Yeah.
And I say to myself quite often, again, if I'm thinking, oh, it's a bit much, I think, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? We don't have time to play with this. We don't have time to mess about. It is now, and people need to step forward now. What would you say to those? Because I spoke to a few people, and they're like, oh, well, reform, because there's going to be that old mindset. We're still going to have that old mindset to play with. Well, if you're not a political party, I don't feel so confident in you. But you're going to have people coming forward saying, oh, well, what about reform and reclaim and all these other new parties that are propping up? Is it the same situation? Because I feel it is, that party politics is party politics, irrelevant of the party. It's still open to so much corruption and influence.
I absolutely think that. I mean, I don't particularly like to go into what we term friendly fire and slagging off the other parties, particularly. I think reform now, Tice has clearly been pushing the vaccine. He's not anti-vax by any stretch of the imagination. He seemed to be neutral, and now he seems to be pro-vax. So anybody on our side who thinks reform is the answer needs to take a long, hard look at themselves. I wouldn't necessarily extend that to the other parties. There's issues with all of them, including my old party, Freedom Alliance. But for me, independents get elected. Small parties don't. Look at the makeup of councils. Go to your local council and look. There will be a few independents on there. There's no reform councillors. There's no reclaim councillors. There's no Heritage Party councillors. But there will probably be a few independents. There are on most councils. So
we need to be strategic now.
Yeah, that's the fundamental issue. We're trying to get in under the radar. Really, we've tried to do it as open freedom candidates. Now we're saying, right, let's be a bit more clever. Let's try and go under the radar. Use this independent route because they seem to get elected. But make sure it's freedom independents that are getting elected, not just any independent.
But we're limiting the amount of corruption in politics as we do it, as a byproduct almost.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And the big parties hate it. They hate independent standing. They do hate the small party standing as well, to be honest. I mean, you can see, I've been to numerous counts, and they loathe and detest us at Freedom Alliance. They really didn't like the fact that we were in there making a bit of a challenge, not getting many votes and not getting anywhere near getting elected. But it still made them feel uncomfortable. And
that's the joy to me. That's just a Billy bonus for me.
Yeah. And if you go as an independent and you do actually come somewhere near getting elected, then they'll get really uncomfortable. Yeah.
That's what we need, though.
Yeah.
That's like the MP challenge and other things I'm doing. they need to feel uncomfortable. They need to know we're coming, and we need to be snapping at their heels, holding their feet to the fire on this one. And for me, there is no option to lose. We have no option anymore. This time round, we have to win. Yeah. And I genuinely am with you, Jonathan, that independence is the way to go. And I'm generally with the electorate that I'm talking with, who have no allegiance to any political party, nor do they want to have an allegiance to any political party. And when I tell them about the Vote Freedom Project, they're like, wow, that is fantastic. So people love it. They love the idea. They love how it works. But what we need are the candidates. And that is the most important thing today, is if you are out there and you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, bugger it, it's got to happen. I've got to do it. Get on the website. You will be fully supported. You know, you're not going into this alone, not completely alone. And that, I think, is one of the it's probably before independents have had to scrabble their way through. But now there's a network of people building that are going to support you through all we can. So you're not alone. And it's time. It's time. Like you said, in a year or two, it's no good.
Yeah, we expect you to be nervous. We expect you to be wary of it. Come and talk to us, and we'll support you. We won't coerce you into doing it, but we will make it possible. We'll support you. And there's an enormous amount of work to do with Vote Freedom. So if anybody else wants to have a role in helping us administratively or anything like that, then equally come and talk to us, because I'm very keen to hear anybody who can roll up their sleeves and help on that front as well.
Absolutely. Whether you've got social media experience, whether you've got experience doing graphic design, whether you've got experience in drafting document, whatever it might be, get in touch. I might, if I speak to you myself, I might try and push you towards standing. But if that's what you can do, then do it. Because we do need the help, we do need support. And what is important is, as with everything you guys have done and what we've done, it is about by the people, for the people. This is the people's time to stand up and take our country back. And I'm not just doing a spitball here in a Brexit style. I'm genuinely serious. We need to take our country back, and we need to take it away from the councillors and the politicians and those with the control mechanisms in place who have pushed us down this road, who are forcing us down this road we do not want to walk down. And it's down to us to stand up and say no, and start taking it in the direction that we need to go, for the people, not for the politicians, not for the conglomerates, not for all the banks and everybody else that we know is currently controlling those mechanisms. We need to take our country back, and we don't have years to wait. It's this year and next year. These are the key years. And so in order to play your role in that, you need to step forward now. Let's get working with you now. Let's get helping you now. Let's start getting things in place now, not tomorrow, not the next day or the day after, now. And for me, what we do this year, we'll learn so much from, ready for next year as well, for 2024, because obviously local council elections are incredibly important, county council, all the rest of it is incredibly important. But we've also got to gear ourselves up for the fact that we've got a GE next year, and we, the people, need to be ready.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of just how it fits with your sort of, the alternative systems that you're building up with PHA, etc. It is, we are taking back control to deconstruct largely. We're trying to get away from this big central state, and that's. But the state's not going to dissolve itself. It's not going to disband by itself. We are going to have to take back control and then disband or neuter it a bit, so that it isn't, it isn't the force for evil and the force for tyranny that we've seen over the last few years. But that's not going to happen without us taking back control. It won't do it to itself. I can guarantee you that. Yeah.
And that's it. It's not, like you say, there's no political parties, white horses, anyone else coming to the rescue. It's down to us regular people, to do it. And this is one of the most lawful, democratic processed routes we can take in order to take back our power. And then when we're in power, like you say, we start that decentralization process, we start the accountability process, we remove all of those factors that are currently getting in the way, those influences, those agencies and everyone else who likes to play their role in how actually our democracy should be run, when they're in fact unelected bods, and take them out of the equation. We really need to strip things back to the bare basics that work for the people, but we can't do that if we're not inside. It's a multi-pronged attack. So I know I can't say enough that people need to just step up and stand up. And this is the time to do it. And if you're sat on the fence out there and you're thinking, but political parties is what I'm used to, prepare yourself, because there's going to be change coming at all angles over the next few years. So you can either get involved with it or you can bury your head in the sand. But quite honestly, we need you to get involved. Things are going to change. Things are going to happen irrelevant. And now's the time for you to go and get involved. Even if you feel intimidated by it, just have it, like you say, have a conversation with us. We can show you it's not that daunting and scary, and that you are fully supported. Like I say, absolutely fully supported. And if for some reason you're really concerned that this isn't the route for you, and it's not necessarily going to resonate with everyone, but if this isn't the route for you, go and get off your butt and get involved with something else, be it a PHA, a PFFA, a Stand in the Park project. There's so many things going on out there, but it is all about we the people. It is about us taking back control, and we're doing it almost by stealth. Whilst the government is currently in free fall and wrangling and doing all that it needs to do, we're out there building the new, and they're really not interfering at all. They're completely oblivious. Through the independent candidates things, they probably won't see us coming. They might not see us coming if they're so focused on themselves. So this is the strategic attack. This is the time to mobilize. This is the time to join forces, and it's time to come together and make things happen. And it's so important that we do cover the political angle, and now is the time. Now is absolutely the time. Have you any words of wisdom for people who might currently be looking to stand for a political party, but they're kind of on the fence? They're not sure, they feel the safety from a political party because those guys know what they're doing, apparently.
Well, we know what we're doing. We've built, it's not just me and you. There's a lot of experience that's been built up in, largely in Freedom Alliance, which is now transferring to the Vote Freedom Project. So we do know what we're doing. Don't over-egg the political parties. I mean, even the big major parties are really struggling for boots on the ground now. The Conservatives, particularly. I mean,
right.
In May last year, I had the leafleting. I had the local MP doing it himself. Came around my cul-de-sac leafleting. Not a single person with it. Couldn't get anybody out. So I chatted to him. He openly admitted that couldn't get anybody out to go leafleting with it. So they're struggling. Labour less so. Labour do have an infrastructure, but the other parties are struggling as well. The simple argument, I mean, I would have stayed within a political party environment. I can see that the safety and the comfort you get from that, but you are going to get more votes as an independent.
Yep.
You can just look at previous results. Look at the Wakefield by-election results, or any of the by-election results. It is obvious that you will get more votes as an independent than you will as a small Freedom Party candidate.
Why do you think that is now, Jonathan?
Well, I think
it wasn't the way 10 years ago.
No, I think it wasn't. I think there's this hostility to political parties. I think there's quite a lot. I mean, I've been in this category myself. I've always, people died to get the vote, so I've always sort of dragged myself along to the polling station to go and vote at sort of 10 to 10 at night or something. And I've been there, dragging myself along the race, thinking, God, I hope there's some sort of independent, because I can't vote for any of the parties. And done that and voted for the independent, knowing nothing about who the independent was. I mean, it could have been far right, far left, or whatever. I just voted for him because he was an independent. So I think there's a chunk of the population that do that, as I did, as I myself have done on a number of occasions. And it's the hostility to political parties. They like, independent is a good sounding word. It's because people don't like parties anymore. It's
Yeah, I think we're noticing the winds of change in a number of different ways. I think this year people will wake up to the fact of what the reality of the situation looks like, and so they're going to need people to help them move forward. And at the moment, politically, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. We can be those people. We are those people. And it is up for us to, help pave a way forward for our fellow men across the UK. Yeah. It's up to us to create the new ways and take away the bits of old that are nothing but destructive and evil, quite frankly. And so, do it for your fellow man. I'm almost at the stage where I'm like, well, let's take one for the team. Yeah. Actually, we can achieve a lot. It's not just taking one for the team. We've got so much we can achieve. And like you said, actually, it only takes 2 or 3 people in a local council to start having an influence and bringing change.
You can be massively disruptive with 2 people in, a council of 60 councillors or 70 councillors. You get 2 people in, you can cause massive disruption. And that's it's a brilliant opportunity. Just on the practicalities of being counsellors, because this puts people off as well. It is essentially a part-time job. You do get some remuneration from it. It's called expenses. It's not particularly well paid, but it is possible to do alongside having another job. It's not, it isn't just for retired people, which is often the perception that's out there. If you've got concerns about combining it alongside your current job, life, whatever, then come and chat to us. But it can be done. It's not impossible to do it whilst having a conventional full-time job as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't let things stand in our way. We are literally taking back our country. We are living in what would be considered some extreme times. And extreme times call for you to take more extreme action than you would ordinarily. And this is one incredibly important route for people to take. And I hope people come on board. Just email us on the website if you've got any questions, if you want a conversation, if you want to understand more, just get in contact. This is about all of us together doing what needs to be done. We are at war, and this is one prong of attack, if you like, that is going to be incredibly effective. And we can start building the future we want the minute we get all of these local councils and MPs roles and everything filled with freedom-loving, genuine, authentic, and ideally grassroots people who know what it's like to be bob up the road, living in very difficult conditions, and can empathise and sympathise with that and help build new ways forward. Because it isn't just about the old; it's about building the new ways forward as well. And I think it's actually an honour to serve our fellow man. It's an honour to do our duty, our civic duty, to make sure our country is the best that it can be for our children to grow up in and our grandchildren to grow up in. And if there was ever a time for change, if there was ever a time to step outside your comfort zone and do what needs to be done for your fellow man, it is now. There will be no other time. If we don't win this, what does that future look like? Now is the time. There is no other time. There is no excuse. No wishful thinking, no thinking somebody else is going to do it. We need you all to do it. Just plug the website again, vote/freedom.org. Let's just get on there and have a look, please. And I'll put all of the details on the notes of the podcast when we publish it. But there's good news to be had as well. I want people to remember there are good things happening. We've got incredible things happening across PHA. PFFA is now starting to pick up. There's other people out there who are becoming more proactive within their communities and making a difference. And whether it be building the new or whether it be just supporting those that are struggling, I'm seeing incredible action across the UK, and now we need to move into this political space and do exactly the same there, which is people standing up and stepping into their power and realizing, actually, I can make a difference here. I can actually do something to help others, as well as myself to help others. And it's a great feeling when you get to do that. And also, France have dropped all of the COVID jabs today. Didn't know if anyone's seen that. I didn't know that. Just today on Monday the 27th, France have now dropped all the jabs. So on safety grounds, or they've just, I think they did a quiet, like our government, just gonna remove them and not really make a deal out of it. But things are moving in the right direction. Great. So now's the time, guys. So thank you very much for today. I would like to point out that if you could like and subscribe and hit thumbs up and all of that good guff, that would be absolutely marvelous. We're available on YouTube, Rumble, and Spotify. Please do share these podcasts. These are built for you, the people. These aren't about big, huge accounts or big celebrity followings. I'm not remotely interested in any of that. I want to talk to real people about real issues and focus on all of the good things that are happening across the UK, as well as the things we need to focus on, like the Vote Freedom Project. So please go on there, have a look around the website, go and talk to your friends, go and talk to people you know who you think would actually make jolly good candidates. Go and get them engaged. And guide them to the website. And if anyone wants to have a conversation, please do just drop us an email and one of us can be in touch with you. But Jonathan, thank you so much for your time today, my friend. Always a joy. Thanks. I'm happy to come on again, and obviously we'll speak soon anyway. But, absolutely. Great. Thanks. No, my pleasure. And guys, just go out there, do what you can do. This is the year for we the people, and we're going to bring change. Let's make it easy on ourselves and all get involved. And I hope everyone has a jolly good week, and we'll see you at the next All Hands on Deck.